Hi, LaShawn.
Hi, Mike.
This is unusual.
Very, although I'm appreciating like not being in the same room. This is kind of different.
Yeah, for those of the folks who can't see us, we are right now recording in the Baltimore tundra. It's been, we got what, 8 to 12 inches of snow covered with
Yeah,
ice about a week
yeah.
ago. And so, as we do here in the Mid-Atlantic, everything just stopped for a week. So,
Shut completely down.
but not this podcast. We will keep going no matter what. We will brave the ice, the snow, hurricanes like a post office man.
So committed.
This is our first recording where we're not together in the same place, the three of us. How do you feel about that? It's a little sad, isn't it, that we're not in the same place? It's just a different vibe.
Uh, yeah, it's a different vibe for sure. I think being home is comfy, right?
It
This
is,
is,
although I have to say I'm having a little COVID flashback this week. There's been
yeah.
lots of like Zoom meetings and lots of like my laundry being done at the same time that I'm working. And like there's just these little triggers that, make me really eager to get back out into the world by Monday.
But on the plus side, I got a ton of laundry done. So
Well, that's good. So anyway, well, we're gonna break up the our time in the Baltimore tundra by talking to Ron Berger today, and he is one of the educational heroes of mine. So I'm really excited for
yeah,
this conversation.
yeah, that'd be great.
And he is going to be joining us from Western Mass via Zoom, so he's going to have no sympathy for our little Baltimore tundra down here.
It's gonna be like a dusting.
All right, let's meet him.
Welcome to the Flipped Podcast.
Or Flip Ed.
However you hear it, this is a place for joy and dreaming of education.
In each episode, you will hear from educators with an idea, a vision, a revolutionary thought that could flip a switch and change schools for our changed world.
I'm LaShawn.
I'm Mike.
Welcome to Flipped.
Welcome to Flip Ed. Ron Berger is an acclaimed national and international keynote speaker focused on inspiring a commitment to quality, character, and citizenship in students. He is the senior advisor at EL Education, a nonprofit school improvement organization that partners with public schools and districts across America, leads professional learning, and creates open educational resources. Ron is the author of best-selling education books including An Ethic of Excellence, A Culture of Quality, Leaders of Their Own Learning, Transformational Literacy, Management in the Active Classroom, Learning That Lasts, and We Are a Crew, a teamwork approach to school culture. He was a professor at Harvard Graduate School of Education, where he did his graduate work. He founded and directs the website Models of Excellence, the Center for High Quality Student Work, which holds the world's largest collection of beautiful K-12 student work. Ron was a public school teacher and master carpenter in rural Massachusetts for over 25 years and received the Autodesk Foundation National Teacher of the Year award. Hi, Ron.
Hi,
Hi,
Mike.
Ron.
Hi, LaShawn. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks so much for
Welcome.
being here.
Thank you.
Before we get going, I just want to say, Ron, 16 years ago, I sat at the bookstore in Harvard Square and I had some time to kill. And I found this little book called An Ethic of Excellence at the bottom of the education section. And I ended up reading the entire thing in that bookstore.
Wow.
And that was my first introduction to you. And it has been an inspiration for my work and our work ever since then. And then when we had our first ever progressive education summer in Baltimore, you were our first keynote speaker, and it was just a career highlight. So thanks for doing that. Thanks for writing that book, and thanks for being here today to do this podcast.
Thank you. And thanks for holding that conference every year. That's
We just had it last Saturday. We beat the
Yeah.
snowstorm by
Oh, congratulations. And did it
thanks.
go well?
It was great. We had Goldie Muhammad as our keynote, who was
I remember
amazing.
hearing that. Yeah, she's terrific.
She is.
Yeah.
So we had a great turnout. It was really good. And we had the whole summit, and then it snowed that night. It was perfect.
Yep. We beat it by just a couple hours.
Great.
So, Ron, will
Congratulations.
you just start out telling us, a little bit just about your origin story? Like the bio says you were a master carpenter, but how did education sort of get its hooks in you teaching?
Yeah, it's been a long time for me, Mike and LaShawn. This is my 50th year in education. So I
Wow.
Congratulations.
started in 1976.
Mm.
Um, that's not where I thought I was headed in my life. I was in college and my study work, you know how you like when you have financial aid, you do work.
Hmm.
Yes.
I First I was vacuuming buildings and then I thought I would love to do some work where I learned something. So I talked my way into working with a carpenter on campus. And he was really kind and he taught me carpentry. And so then my summers, I started getting on a building crew. And when I was actually studying science in college, but I took a class that was about teaching science to elementary students.
Hmm.
And I started going to these elementary schools and doing science with kids. And I just thought, this is the coolest thing in the world. Like, kids are so great. I had no idea. I thought I was headed toward a career in science, not in teaching, but I got derailed by how much I loved listening to kids' ideas and thinking and the spirit of kids. So I got my teaching certification and started on 28 years of teaching in rural public schools in Western Massachusetts, where I live. But I never stopped building because I couldn't make that much money teaching. Like my first full teaching salary was $7,000 for the year. So I always worked part time as a builder. I was building houses on weekends and summers and breaks. And when I was raising a family, I felt like I needed the extra income. So I just kept building. And in fact, this morning I was doing carpentry in a house that my daughter bought that was built in 1800. I was installing flooring and fixing the balustrade and, so it's something I've never quite left in my heart, the building part of life too.
And you started teaching what
Wow.
grade? Where did you start? Fifth, was it fifth grade?
Um, I I've taught off and on all elementary grades from early childhood from pre-K to sixth. At some time or another, I taught every grade, often multiple grades at once. My first teaching was in a first, second, and third grade altogether. Rural
Hmm.
schools can be really different than urban schools in that way.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
for much of my time, I was teaching upper elementary, which here was fifth and sixth grade. So that was the most amount of time I spent.
That's great. And then just
And
going
was
back to the
that
carpet.
your,
Go ahead,
no,
LaShawn.
just curious, was that your sweet spot for teaching that fifth and sixth grade?
You know, LaShawn, I loved fifth and sixth graders, but I loved 4 and 5 year olds too. And
Mm.
when I started teaching undergrads at University of Massachusetts and then graduate students at Harvard, I loved those students too. I've never found an age that I didn't love teaching. So to me, any age is great. And some people say like, I would never want to teach middle school students or I would never want to teach 5 year olds. And I think you're crazy. You just haven't tried it. It's just so fun.
Going back to the carpentry thing for a second, LaShawn, is this a good time to admit that I don't know what a balustrade is? Or is that off?
This is a great time to admit that. Yeah.
Maybe we'll do that offline later. So, um, all right. So, Ron, this podcast really is about asking, educators that we admire who do great work to think about like what's if they could just flip one thing, knowing that that one thing might not change it all in the world, but really could have a profound impact on students and classrooms and teachers. What is that one flip? And so this is the moment. I'm curious about like what would be your flip.
Yeah, that's actually an easy question for me, Mike and LaShawn, because I've pretty much had the same obsession for 50 years, which is I think we as a nation and as a world vastly underestimate the capacity of kids to do beautiful work, like really great work. And so the
Yeah.
flip is to take student work seriously and give students the opportunity and the support to do great things. because I feel like school has become, in every country I work in the United States and all over the world, it really is preparing for exams. Like that's somehow become the point of school.
Hmm.
But that's not what life's about. Like in life, life's not about
Yeah.
exams. Life's about the quality of work that you do and the kind of human being that you are. And I feel like that's what school should be about, the quality of work that you do and the kind of human being that you are. And I know that sounds sort of silly, like, of course we care about student work in schools, but we really don't. That's not how we measure
Mm.
teachers. That's not how we measure students in schools. That's not how we measure districts or charter networks or like we measure everything by exams. And so that's what everyone worries about. And it's not their fault because that's the currency. But imagine if the way we measured schools where we went in and we looked at the work that students did. Then people would think, oh, their work should be good. Like not their exam prep, but their work should be good.
Yeah.
And in those few places in life where kids have the chance to really be proud of their work, which tend to be robotics, Model UN, chess club, school plays, orchestra, band, chorus, athletics, like when kids get to share their work publicly and rehearse it and practice it and work on getting better at it, those are the things they remember for the rest of their life. Like the game they were in, the play they were in, the concert they were in, because they practiced it. They did it in front of their community, the people they loved, and they had to get good at it because there was an audience for it. Like it really mattered that it be good. And so that stays with them for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And then all those tiny assignments just and prep, for example, just disappears for students. So what if all of academics were more like that? Where like the getting ready to share something really well done. That's my flip.
That's incredible. And you know, we're fans of a lot of your work. We often reference the Austin's butterfly work when we're thinking about, you know, getting kids to high quality work and things of the such. I'm wondering what lens are we looking at student work from? What should teachers and anyone be looking at when they're looking at and examining student work?
Great, LaShawn. Well, the first thing is we should just be looking at it. Like, I mean, before we even talk about what lens, the first step is I think teachers need to get together and look at student work together, which doesn't happen that often. So if you have a school with 3 second grades, how often do those 3 second grade teachers sit down and bring the work that their students did, not their exam data, right? Like not the professional learning community where you get together and you look at the interim
Right.
results from their assessments and you say that Mike got 4.2 and LaShawn got 4.8. No, I'm talking about let's bring the writing from all of our three classes
Yeah.
and look at it together and say, how are kids doing in their writing? What are the patterns we see about what they're strong and weak at? In every possible way, not just the conventions of the writing, but their expression, their language, their vocabulary, their ideas. How are we doing? And look at that work together and figure out where are we succeeding and where are we not by looking at the work. Even if you didn't have a protocol, even if you just had the teachers bring work and sit together and talk, it would be productive. Because most teachers never share the work of their students anywhere else. They look at it, they mark it, they return it. But they don't have conversations about it. So just talking about it is a starting place.
Before my next question, I just want to know, why did I get a 4.2 and LaShawn got a 4.8 round?
That tracks.
Okay. Well, so there's something about looking at the student work, making the work public, the examples you gave around, you know, chess club, the chorus, like these getting ready for sort of a performance or for sharing the work publicly. But so embedded in that, it also sounds like you're making some statement about like the kind of work we're asking kids to do. Because
Yeah.
I could also imagine a place where we're pulling together their fill in the blank worksheets and looking at that together. But I don't think that's the same, or is that the same thing you're getting to?
No, and in fact, I work for EL Education, a nonprofit, and we spent 6 months with my friends at Harvard trying to come up with a what does high quality work actually mean?
Mm.
And we fought about it for 6 months, and then I just decided it had to be done because it went through 100 drafts and no one could agree. So we have a one-pager now on what high quality work. But basically, we had three categories. One was the complexity of work. Is it, for a kid of that age, is this work the kind of complexity we would hope to see in mathematics, in science, in history, in literature, in music, in whatever? Like, how difficult is the work? Or is it too easy for them for where they should be at that age? The second is the craftsmanship. How well done is the work? How well crafted is the science, the math, the writing, the thinking? And the third is the authenticity. Like, is this really their work? And in the age of AI, authenticity is going to become even way more important to think about. But one of the things Mike used a great example of the fill in the blank worksheets, or, you know, where you put in A and B, or you draw a line between this and a line between. The problem with that is that when I get the work, I can't even tell Mike's from LaShawn's except for what name happens to be written at the top. There's
Very true.
nothing about that work that's your own.
Yeah.
But if I were to say, Mike and LaShawn, each of you write about some moment in your life that really changed things for you, your essays are going to be entirely different and authentically yours.
Yeah.
And if a kid said to AI, do that, it would be hard for AI to do it because the AI doesn't know their life. And so we need to have assignments that are authentic, that allow kids to share their authentic wisdom and their ideas and their thoughts. And so that each student is unique and each student is something that they can then refine and become proud of as this is a statement about me, or this is a statement of my ability or my work in this at this time. So yes, the assignments matter a lot. And they should be assignments that eventually, through drafts, lead to some sharing beyond the teacher.
Yeah.
Are there other, in terms of making the work public,
Yeah,
there's obviously sort of the grand public moments that you share
sure.
the work. Are there ways to make work public that are smaller than that still matter, right? That you can
Absolutely.
do in a consistent
So
way?
first of all, every classroom, to me, every classroom and every school should look like a museum of student work. I think when I walk into a classroom, what I hope to see is the work of students on the walls. When I walk through the hallways of a school, what I hope to see is the work of students on the walls. Why not use the walls to be a museum of what's possible so that kids are inspired everywhere they walk and think, oh, that's what's expected of me, is that kind of quality work. Secondly, when lessons are going on all day in class, every lesson is an opportunity to have students showcase their thinking. In every lesson, it could be, LaShawn, stand up and read your first paragraph. Tell me what's working there. Mike, can you read your closing to us? How is that? Or can you come up here to the board and show us how you solved this problem? That's making work public. When you're struggling with a mathematical process, saying, Mike and LaShawn, both of you come up to the board, show us how you approach this. You use two different style, like two totally different mathematical approaches. Let's see. And then you share your work and then we discuss, they got different answers. What's going on here? Who's right? Who's wrong? Why? What's going, like, that is making work public. But then there are the more formal ways to make work public, like having student-led conferences for families where students have a portfolio of their work and their mom or their dad or their grandparent or foster parent comes in, or maybe their older brother or sister, whoever you can get.
Yeah.
They come into the school and then the students present their own work to their families and say, this is what I'm proud of. Here's how I'm doing in reading. Here's how I'm doing in mathematics. Here are my projects. Like, this is what I'm struggling with. This is what I'm proud of. And then you have community presentations of work where each kid gets up and presents her work to a broader community beyond her parents. And then you have exhibitions of work where all the students are presenting their work. And then you have performances. Like, there's so many levels in which the work can be public, and those are the things kids will be excited about. Those are the things they'll prepare for, and those are the things they'll remember afterward.
And what does this do for kids? You said something earlier that was just incredible about how there are not a lot of opportunities for students to really lean into being proud of their work. What is a space where students are proud of the work that they have put effort into and is authentic and there's evidence of their own thinking? What does that do for kids?
Well, if every kid is filling in the blanks in a worksheet, or every kid is doing an assessment, all we learn is that Mike got the 4.2 and you got the 4.8, or somebody got an 85 and someone got an 82. Nobody is particularly proud of that. But if everyone is writing an essay about something important, if everyone is doing a scientific experiment where they are contributing to the community in some way, if everyone is doing something that's generally their own work, and they've refined it through critique and gotten better at it, and then they're sharing it with an audience beyond their teacher, could be another classroom, could be seniors in the community, it could be the rest of the school, it could be in the local library or local community, like they're sharing it publicly, then it takes on the quality, LaShawn, of kids being on a football field or on a basketball court or up on stage for the school musical or at debate club or any of those things where all of a sudden people that you love and admire are watching you or looking at your work. And that's pride. Like when you feel like I did this well and my minister, my priest, my grandmother, my neighbor, the kids in the upper grades, like they're looking at me, they're looking at my work. It makes kids care about doing it well because they don't want to strike out or shoot air balls in a basketball game. They don't want to be on stage and be off key in the musical. They want to remember their lines in the play. In that same way, if their academic work, their scientific reports, their drafting work, their blueprints, their mathematical solutions, if they're going to be public, they want people to be impressed with them.
Yeah.
Is there a place for work to be public that is not the work you're proud of? Like, is there a place for the work to be public where I'm struggling with something or that I didn't do this well, or I don't know how to do this?
Absolutely.
Or is public work only when it's a product that has craftsmanship?
Great question, Mike. I mean, the first step is how does work and ideas, and ideas are part of that. How do they live in regular classroom learning and lessons? And that is all formative, right? That's like when I ask you, Mike, and you, LaShawn, to come up and put your mathematical solutions on the board, and I've seen that you got different answers and you had different approaches. That's not finished work. And the other kids are not even sure who's right there and what approach you took. And if I can have the patience, and this is hard for us as teachers, if I can have the patience to stay neutral in asking you each to share your work and not say, LaShawn, share your work, Mike, share your work. Like if there's nothing in my eyes or my voice which tells the kids who's right and who's wrong, they're going to be freaked out and really interested. They'll be like, yeah, but Mr. Berger, who's right here? Is LaShawn right or is Mike right? And I'll say, well, what do you think? LaShawn, explain your thinking. Mike, explain your thinking. Let's think about and the kids, if they can see that I am keeping a neutral face, I'm saying, that's an interesting approach, LaShawn. Why did you do that? Mike, that was really intriguing. Tell me what did you do here? And they're thinking, yeah, but we just want to know who's right. If I can have the patience not to telegraph to kids through my eyes or my voice who's right, the kids are going to dig into your thinking and then and really try to figure out, how do you solve this? And how did each of you try to, that's all formative work. That's not polished, finished work. It's also possible in an exhibition to put 5 drafts of a blueprint up or 5 drafts of an essay up on the board or on your presentation board or in your student-led conference or in your presentation of learning and say, I want to show you 5 drafts of my historical report. Here's where I started. Here was my thesis originally. I had to refine my thesis. It was too broad. Here's my second draft of that. Then we got critique from these older students, and then I refined it even more. Here's where I got to so the process can be part of that too.
I want to just get really tactical for a second.
Sure.
One of the things we sometimes come across is the drafting process is often hard for teachers and for students because there's a muscle you need to build about that. Many children are reluctant to do multiple drafts. I finished it. Why do I need to do it again? Right? So if I'm a teacher, what would you say to a teacher who's like, I'm really struggling to get my kids to do a second draft, let alone a third, fourth, fifth? draft?
Great.
Where's the starting point?
That's a question I hear all the time, and it makes good sense. And it starts with how we frame things to begin with. So if students think we're going to do this, and if we're lucky, we'll be done in one draft, then anyone who has to do a second draft feel like they failed. It's like, I didn't do well, but LaShawn did, so I have to do a second draft. If you start by saying, all right, we are actually going to do a landscape design for a new section of property that the school is now going to expand into, and the landscape architects actually are willing to take our ideas for that. And so let me show you what students in the other section worked on. In the fall semester, we had a bunch of students already try this, and I want to show you LaShawn's, who was in 7th grade last time, and I'm going to show you 7 drafts of her piece. And now I'm going to show you Mike's. Mike did 9 drafts of his. And this is where he started. It was pretty crude, but then he learned this, and then he added this, and then he got critique from other people, and then he added this, and then we had a landscape architect actually come in and look at the work that kids were doing. And then they realized, oh, we were so off on certain things. And you can see the big jump in his work from draft 4 to 5 here. You start that project, and no kid is thinking, oh, I'm going to do this in one draft. They're thinking, like, should I do 8 drafts? Should I do 10 drafts? Like, it's how you frame it. If kids are writing a story and you bring an author in, a professional author in, and they say, I'm going to show you 20 drafts of my book. So this is, you know, the published book, right? Because it's in your library. But here are the 20 drafts I wrote prior to that. That's the way life works. We don't do things in one draft in real life. If kids understand that anything of quality is going to be done many times, they don't feel like a failure when they have to practice on their violin or practice their chorus song for the concert or practice on the soccer pitch, because they think, oh, we got to practice to get better, because we frame it that way. But if we say, here's your assignment, turn it in. Oh, no, LaShawn, you're going to have to redo yours and do another draft. Mike, you're going to have to do another draft. Kids are like, oh, I'm dumb, or I feel mad, or I feel hurt. We have to start by framing it that nobody does this in one draft. Nobody like puts on their football equipment and then goes and plays a game with no practices. Nobody like picks up a pencil and writes a full novel and it's published. This is the way life works. And if kids get into that process, it becomes normal for them. Like, how many drafts are we going to do on this? What do you think? 5, 10? Like, that's more the conversation than do I have to do a second draft?
Yeah. That framing is very specific, but also very intentional. The intentionality behind that, I can see teachers using that. I'm wondering where do folks start? So teachers that are in the classroom right now on the ground who want to have the aim of getting kids towards high quality work through drafting, through revision, who want to be able to like look and learn from student work and be able to take away some meaningful things. What's the starting point for that for them?
Yeah, well, there's not one starting point, LaShawn, but let me use a specific example in arguably the hardest you could think of situation.
Great.
So there was one year I taught pre-K, so I was teaching 4-year-olds.
That's the hardest situation right there.
If people are not going to be willing to do a million drafts, like 4-year-olds might be your first choice for who gets the understanding of 10 drafts if they're 4 years old. This is how I taught multiple drafting to 4-year-olds. I said, we're all going to draw a picture of where we live. I didn't say house because for some kids it was a house, for some kids it was an apartment, for some kids it was a trailer, but it was like, think about where you live, and then we're going to draw a picture of it. And then they all tried, and they're 4, so you could imagine what they did. And I said, here's the cool thing. We're now going to put all of our work up, and we're going to go sit on the carpet, and we're going to look at each other's work and get ideas, and we get to do a second version, and we can borrow each other's ideas. And so I pin up 25 pieces of work, and the kids are all looking at it. I said, what do you notice? And they're like, Mike put bushes in front of his house. I didn't think we have bushes. I didn't put those. LaShawn put windows. I forgot windows. Oh, yeah. Like my house doesn't even have a door. Oh, yeah. And so they're noticing all these things that other kids did that they forgot. And they said, here's the cool thing. You get to borrow anyone's idea. You could borrow LaShawn's idea. You could borrow Mike's idea. Anything that someone else remembered but you forgot. Now you get to do a second version and you can borrow their ideas. Let's try. And they all write and they do a second version. Then I said, now here's the coolest thing. Tonight you get to go home. And this is before there were cell phones and all that. You get to take a mental picture of your house or your apartment. Like you go home, you can look and think, I forgot that. I forgot the TV antenna. I forgot the chimney. I forgot this. Like you get to look at it. And tomorrow when you get to do a third version of this. And you can add anything that you remembered. And they're like, we do. All right. And the next day they come in and they all do their third version. And then we put all those up. And we just kept doing this. And the next time I had them do something, they said, how many versions do we get to do? Not like, are you going to make us do a second draft? But do we get the chance to learn and then do another version? And when we do an exhibition, I would say, you pick your favorite version. And most kids were like, well, that's my latest version. But some kids were like, I actually like my third version the best. I was like, that's your choice. You pick the version you like. But the kids started to feel like if I said, okay, we have to do this now, and I said, but there's no time for other versions, they'd get mad. Because they feel like, how can we do a good job if we only get to do one version? So it's really, again, the framing.
I think we could keep talking all day. But I think we're nearing the time we have for this podcast. Sure. I have to ask one question, which is off script, Ron, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Which is, because I want to ask you about like, what are the barriers? Why isn't this happening everywhere? Yeah. I want to ask about, all these questions, but one thing that's really remarkable in this conversation is how much enthusiasm you have for this.
Oh, I love it. I just students do such amazing things.
Like, where does that come? Like, how have you held? You also started at the beginning being like, this is your 50th year doing this.
Yeah.
This work. Like, how do you hold this just love and enthusiasm for students, the work that they're creating, like advocating for this work? Like, where does that come from? Is that just like innate to you or what?
No, it came from what drew me into education was my excitement about kids' ideas and kids' work. And I started collecting kids' work in 1976, and I'm still collecting it. And I have the world's largest collection of student work, which is like thousands of pieces of student work. And then, it all lives online in this open source website, Models of Excellence. But it's also on permanent exhibition at Harvard Graduate School of Education, framed student work. That's so beautiful. And every day I get submissions of work from kids from around the world. They're proud of their drawings. They're proud of their essays. They're proud of their science reports. They're proud of their historical studies. Like, kids send work that they're proud of, or teachers send work that they're proud of that their kids have done. And then I get to see these things and I think, oh my goodness, look at this piece of work that this kid did. And when I visit schools, and I visit schools all over America, but also in many other countries lately, I say ahead of time, I'm not your usual visitor. Like, usually when someone visits your school, you show them the cafeteria, you show them the gym, you show them this, you peek in a few classrooms, you meet with the principal. I was like, that's not what I want to do when I visit your school. I want to visit your school, and I want to meet with a group of kids who are really proud about work that they've done. And I want to have them bring their work, and I want to have them tell me why they're proud of their work. And you can take me on a tour too, and you can show me the principal's office and the gymnasium or the theater. But really, I want to talk to kids. And then all these kids show up with work. They're high school kids, they're 5-year-olds, doesn't matter. And they're like, let me show you this work. I'm really proud of it. And that was like, wow, the stuff I get to see, the what I get to hear kids explain, and really the work that kids do is so sophisticated often. It's just remarkable. Their thinking, their craftsmanship.
Yeah.
Ron, thanks for being on the podcast today. Thanks for being a faraway mentor and exemplar of an educator that I'm striving to be. We're striving to be. And thanks for being such a strong voice for this over time in our teaching and learning world. We really appreciate it.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Thank you, LaShawn. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, thanks for the good work you do.
All right, LaShawn.
That was amazing.
He's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you taking away from that conversation?
Like always, I'm taking away a lot of different things. I think two things. The first is that I really am inspired to do the work of like putting the protocols to the side and just having folks sit with student work. Like, just look at it.
That felt so freeing when he said that.
It felt so freeing. And I think, like, we have the instinct to follow these protocols and these structures and to look for certain things, approach it with the lens of something. But, like, just look at student work. And it is so, it's profound, it's powerful. And I can't wait to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I think the second thing is that in every example, I outperformed you. So like I got the 4.8 over the 4.2, and there were like multiple spaces in which like I was the better student. And like shout out to you, Ron, for picking up on that very, very quickly, even in our distance. That was great.
I was going to bring that up. There was another example where like you did the right one on the board and I did the wrong one or something like that. Or his tone was different when he was talking to Mike than when he was talking to LaShawn. Like I felt some way about it. It hurt. It really hurt.
Yeah. I think he's very, intuitive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How about you? What are you taking away?
A lot. But I really just liked when he outlined, there was lots of things that really resonated, but I really liked when he outlined like all the ways that you can make work public that's not about the big performance, right? Because there's such a power to like making the work public and your thinking public. But oftentimes I think as teachers we get stuck. That means that everything has to be an exhibition of learning, or everything has to be a performance. And he really were like articulated like 4, 5, 6, 7 ways, levels of everything from like demonstrating your thinking to a peer, or demonstrating your piece of writing as part of a mini lesson, to student-led conferences, to there's just so many ways to think about how do you make your work and thinking public. That I thought that was really helpful to me just in my schema, because sometimes it feels so big, and he made it, some of it big and usefully big, but some of it really accessible as well. Before we hop out, the last podcast we recorded was live with Goldie. And then this time you conjured up the Baltimore tundra so that we're all snowed in, and now we're doing it this way. So, like, I don't know if you're feeling really confident that we know that what we're doing, that now you can throw all of these like curveballs in, and it really worries me for what's next, the next podcast we're going to record. Like, are we going to be like on a trapeze wire?
Yeah, I was thinking like something outdoors, maybe like right at the top of a mountain or something. I think it's time for us to really take this to the next level. Higher heights, Mike.
Excellent. You know what? You go, and I swear I'll be right there.
I don't believe that.